Welcome to St. Paul Central High School as we proudly present our finale of high school basketball on TSB television. Today, it's the Twin Cities Girls Championship, a rematch of last year's competition between the Minneapolis Washburn Millers and the St. Paul Central Minutemen. Hello everyone, Mike Beaton here. Thank you for joining us in our final game of the broadcast season. We're not going to be doing sections. We will have some enhanced state tournament coverage, but as far as games go, this is it. Quentin Johnson, the head coach for Bloomington Kennedy, will join me in the booth in a few minutes. These two teams familiar with each other. St. Paul Central running through the St. Paul City Conference as they customarily do each season. This time it's under the direction of Marta Wallen, who has been impressed with the increased focus on balance on this year's St. Paul Central roster. Nobody's scoring more than 13 points per game, but Raina Chiro providing an anchor in the post, and several guards, Lyric Williams, Chelsea Kizart, Jada Jones, to name a few, have collectively assembled to become a force on defense. Minneapolis Washburn, we've covered them multiple times. You're familiar with their storylines, including Chase Coley, who is running after several records. She stands 20 blocks away from beating her own mark for most blocks in a single season in the state of Minnesota. She already beat her previous record for single game blocks, getting 23 earlier this season. And with the rescheduling, the craziness that has followed this winter, Washburn had a stretch of 6 games in 8 days. In that span, Chase Coley recorded 6 triple-doubles. She's also going after the single-season rebounding record, and as you know, every block she makes adds another mark to her total for most career blocks. Chase also 20 points away from the 2,000-point milestone. Lucia Renikoff stepping up in big ways this season, can be a bit streaky at times, but an effective three-point shooter, shoots 40% from beyond the arc. And wild cards, as you know, Emma Shepard, the mid-range specialist, Natalie Holdall. This will be a fun contest. This is also the final tune-up before section games begin. The section seedings came out a couple of days ago, so both schools know their path to the state tournament. St. Paul Central got the 3rd seed in Section 4A. White Bear Lake and Roseville are seated ahead of them. St. Paul Central will face Matomidi in the first round, and likely White Bear Lake in the semifinals. It's a tough road for them, but doable. Minneapolis Washburn, the favorite in Section 6-3A, had a lower QRF than Benilde St. Margaret's, but St. Paul Central beat Benilde. That gave them a boost, and Washburn playing a lot of 4A teams. That helped their ranking out. Benilde suffered a couple of bad losses in the month of February. Washburn will face Blake on Tuesday to start their section round, and judging by the remaining teams in that grouping, it's tough to see Minneapolis Washburn ousted before they reach the state tournament round in Class 3A. A lot of storylines to share in our final broadcast of the season. It's been a lot of fun. The starting lineups and tip-off will be coming up in a few minutes, so stay tuned.
For your Central Minutemen at guard number 2, Chelsea Kizart.
Welcome to St. Paul Central High School, and honored to have you with us in the booth, Quentin Johnson. I know you had a strong season with Kennedy, and you'll be getting ready for sections, but looking forward to this matchup here?
I definitely am looking forward to this matchup here today. High intensity, a nice crowd here on a Saturday afternoon.
Let's take a look at the starting 5 for both teams. For Minneapolis Washburn, the visitors, it's Lucia Renikoff, the 5'8 junior guard. She wears number 10. Number 11, Aaliyah Wilson, 5'8 senior guard. Number 23, Chase Coley, the 6'3 senior forward. She's headed to Iowa, as you may know. Kendra Zellner-Smith, 6' junior forward. And number 45, Natalie Holdall, 5'10 senior forward. St. Paul Central will start Chelsea Kizart, 5'7 junior guard, number 2. Number 3, Lyric Williams, 5'5 senior guard. Number 12, Jada Jones, 5'6 senior guard. Number 15, Raina Chiro, the 6'2 senior center. And number 30, Asia Smith, the 5'8 senior guard. Senior heavy group on St. Paul Central's end, and for Washburn, this is the final regular season game for Chase Coley, and an illustrious career in varsity. The last 2 or 3 years have been absolutely phenomenal. In all but 10 of their games, I believe, since her sophomore season, she has posted at least a double-double.
She's definitely had a great career, and what a way to go out playing a Central team that's kind of owned this city championship, in the last 10 years or so. I think she's ready and poised to come back strong here in this matchup today.
These two teams met a year ago. St. Paul Central ran away 71-47, but they had two posts to work with in Chapman and Chereau, and Washburn a much more confident team than we saw last year.
I would agree with that. It's going to come down to Chase, and more Chase. He's a focal point. Like you said before, going to Iowa. If she doesn't step up as far as that's concerned, it'd be interesting to see who can take up, for some of that slack with her.
Washburn had a almost nightmare just to get to this game. They beat Southwest by 3, 65-62, but Chase Coley fouled out of the game. Not the result I think many were expecting considering Southwest's schedule and their results this year, but that's why you play these games. And as you've noted, even in your conference with Egan and some of those schools, if you're not ready to face them, they can sneak up and steal a win from you.
Totally agree with that. So
Chereau and Coley meet at center court. Central wearing their familiar black jerseys, Washburn wearing the whites. St. Paul Central and Washburn undefeated in conference play. Here we go. And as you mentioned, Central a regular visitor to this event. Coley from the elbow, missed it. And the rebound to Asia Smith.
Well, early on, it looks like Central is doing what a lot of teams have done Washburn this year, packed in, started with a 2-3 zone.
And keep an eye out for the box and one, as we've seen before. Edina ran that to perfection in their win over Washburn. Other teams have tried that. The problem is they didn't have the post that Edina does, and Chelsea Kizart not afraid of Coley's 6'3 frame. She gets the first basket.
That's kind of going to be a key to the game if they could get some points in the paint with that rim protector and Chase Coley.
And Coley, a facilitator as well, among the state leaders in just about every category. Hold all, bullseye. Hold all, one of the wild cards, and as you and I saw in the Edina game, she blew up for 22 points and was the reason Washburn was able to compete with Edina in that game.
Yeah, seeing her in the state tournament last year, she gained some valuable experience. I think she might be ready for this game.
Traveling violation on Jada Jones. Washburn overall, just a different vibe from this group. Last year, I think they were a bit nervous, a bit antsy. They weren't sure how to handle that atmosphere because they weren't used to winning as they have been in the last 2 years. This year, they're not intimidated by who they face. Renikoff, she's feeling it from three-point range.
Well, I'll tell you, if Washburn can continue shooting like this from the outside, that's going to do nothing but open it up for Coley. They're going to have to come out and get on shooters.
Renikoff, about a 40% three-point shooter, one of the most accurate. Zellner Smith with a steal. Bounce pass to Renikoff. Good idea to go with the trailing player. Dead ball rebound to the Minutemen.
I like the way Washburn started out here, playing on Central's home court. They're kind of taking it to them right now.
Zellner Smith, the more raw of the post players when she and Coley are given that assignment. There's a deep pass. They can't hook up for a fast break, so they'll have to run a set. That's all right. Williams is open. Short on the three. Rebound Kizart. Chereau, mid-range, off the heel. And Zellner Smith with the rebound. To finish that point, Zellner Smith more raw, but she is a solid rebounder. Coley with the quick skip to Zellner Smith, and she gets her own rebound. Coley lining up for three. Wilson with an O-board. Renikoff on the drive, and they get Raina Chereau. I didn't see a foul from here, but the officials see otherwise.
Well, right now, Central playing that zone, they have to clean up and find bodies. You can't give up 2-3 shot opportunities. You put the whistle in the referee's mouth for getting calls like that.
Renikoff, a 77% free throw shooter on the floor. Get that number for you, 44%. Averaging 12.8 points per game, in the top 10 in steals in the state. Last year's split time between JV and varsity this year has morphed into an effective full-time varsity member.
Well, she's kind of the glue for them as far as getting their offense started. I really like her poise, and that experience helps. Senior.
She had a big game against Richfield in Washburn's 68-49 win over their section rival. That was the only game they played inside their section. Washburn opting to play mostly 4A teams in their non-conference slate. St. Paul Central throws it away. The Millers have a 7-2 lead.
Well, right now it looks like a little bit of Washburn's length is kind of bothering St. Paul Central a little bit.
Well, last year you had Sade Chapman to neutralize Chase Coley, both players with a similar build. This year you don't have that option. It's a challenge for Central, but there's some aggressive defense on their end, and they're going to draw the foul on Wilson. What they lack in height, they make up for in speed.
Well, that's definitely going to be a key for them. Simple as that. You don't have the size. You got to play your own tempo and kind of make this a helter-skelter game.
That was a staple of Willie Taylor's teams when he was here at Central, and Marta Wallen, the head coach, in her first season, continuing that philosophy. Williams driving baseline. Holdall was ready. Asia Smith trailing. Off the mark. Sherrow, that was a tough angle, but Coley tips it right into Kizart. Coley getting a deflection. And Sherrow finally posts up on him.
Well, that possession right there, that's got to be a concern for Coach Coley as far as giving up those second chance opportunities.
Coley weaving past Sherrow on the baseline, but too strong. She was left open. That was a gimme bucket. But a lot of time left. And you see those mistakes don't phasing Washburn. They're ready on defense. Making the deflection was Holdall.
Well, it's interesting to see Chase right now, sitting here with 0 points, and we touched on she does so much for them. But she's doing a good job of getting everyone else involved, but it might be time for her to take over a little bit here.
In the game against New Richland, which you were there for, I called that game, she scored 49 points. In a rare case of Chase taking that initiative. And that's not to say she's a lazy player. She prefers to set up her teammates to draw coverage off of her. But in that game, she took it upon herself, and who knows, if there had been overtime, I think she would have had the single game record for points.
Well, when you're playing someone like Carly Wagner, you kind of get into that little battle there.
That was a fun game. Washburn forcing the turnover. There is no intimidation with this Washburn team at all. Holdall hooking up with Renikoff on the deep pass, although Renikoff couldn't finish there. Coley getting the bounce. Coley stepped up, well, in every category, but there was a stretch where Washburn had to play 6 games in 8 days with the weather cancellations and postponements. And in those 6 games, she got 6 triple-doubles and a pair of quadruple-doubles.
Well, that's just a testament to her basketball IQ all-around game.
And Zellner Smith is fouled. She'll go to the free throw line. As we said, Zellner Smith, a solid rebounder, and not a quiet scorer either. 6.3 rebounds a game, 4.9 points. Shooting just over 50% for the free throw line.
Now you got to wonder if St. Paul Central is going to be able to keep up with this type of pace. I don't know. I don't think they're that deep as they usually have been in the past. But they're competing, and I think they're in a good spot.
St. Paul Central calls timeout, and let's dissect that matchup a little more. For Washburn, we said they play most of their schedule against 4A opponents in their non-conference slate, St. Paul Central being one of those schools. Against the 4A teams, they lost to Lakeville South, defeated Shakopee, lost to Woodbury. That was a game Tyler Coley felt they should have won. Beat Tartan, Duluth East, Rochester Century. Had that 1-point heartbreaker to Edina. And Minnetonka defeated them, but they won't have to worry about it. Minnetonka, one of the top teams in 4A. Egan, they beat in overtime. And as we said, one of the deceptive 4A teams. You look at the 4A slate Washburn has played, they're not going to be fazed by a St. Paul Central team, at least based on the schedule.
Well, and that's why you do that. You test your girls, especially early in the season before you get into your conference play. And, you know, they're battle tested and ready. They've been through a couple wars, you know, might have come out on the losing end, but it does nothing but get you ready for these high intensity games coming up.
Zellner Smith missed both free throws. They lead 9-4, and Washburn forcing another turnover. Intriguingly, this is the first time St. Paul Central has hosted a Twin Cities game since 2008. Part of that is the Minneapolis and St. Paul schools alternating, St. Paul hosting in even years, Minneapolis in odd years. But it's been a while since Central has hosted this. Coley missing the elbow. She does have that range, and we've seen it where she hits the elbow jumpers and three-pointers, but right now struggling to find that range.
Well, I think it leads on to what I mentioned earlier as far as, you know, every team focus on her when you play her, but is she ready to take over this game? And she just has to let it come to her right now.
Kennedy Gay on the floor for the Minutemen, and she couldn't get past the double team of Zellner Smith and Coley.
Well, that's the key to this game if they're going to be able to get any points in the paint.
Chase Coley getting 2 points.
It's a dangerous time right now for Central. They're kind of hanging and competing here, but, you know, this gets up to 10. It might be an uphill battle to finish this half off.
Lyric Williams with the backdoor skip to Gay. That's off the mark. Coley with another rebound. Coley, as we've said, in pursuit of the single season rebounding and blocks record. That record she's already broken twice. Coley left open. She'll fire the baseline.
Just a lack of communication on Central's part right there. You can't leave the best player, arguably in the state, wide open under the basket 2 feet away.
Or she'll start a bakery and get the roll. Sherrill missing the triple. Zellner Smith with the rebound, and we're at that margin you spoke of. Washburn, another basket, and they're going to be at that 10-point cushion. But there's the full court defense, the pressure defense of Central, forcing the steal, foul, and Jada Jones will shoot a pair.
Well, there's turning points in game throughout, you know, and every possession is valuable in a matchup like this, and that was a big one right there. That could have been the difference of going up over that 10 mark. Now they could cut it back down.
Jada Jones averaging 7.7 points and 3.2 rebounds per game. .58% free throw shooter. Interesting you mentioned possessions, because on Max Preps, they spoke about boys basketball, but you could say the same for girls. They found Minnesota to be the highest scoring state in the country, and the theory is the 18-minute halves, which increase the number of possessions because it reduces the number of opportunities teams have to kill a clock without a shot clock.
Well, I mean, that's a valid point, but I also think that, you know, as far as nationwide, Minnesota's underrated on the amount of talent that's coming out of here.
Well, that's why I wanted a coach's perspective. How did Chase Coley get open on the trailing end? Goodbye. You said the game, she had to let the game come to her. I think she's doing that. Oh, she's feeling it now. This isn't even funny. Shepard can't recover. Emma Shepard, the mid-range specialist, not starting today. But if she gets open from about 10 feet out, 5 to 10 feet, she's dangerous.
It's looking like I see a couple of the Central girls kind of breathing hard out there. That pace point that I brought up earlier might be coming back.
I see hands on hips already.
I don't know if Washburn scores here. I know Central used a timeout early on. They might want to look at regrouping again and maybe coming up with a different strategy to kind of preserve some energy.
In Central's case, they get a few days off before their first section game. They play Woodbury. I said Mahtomedi in the open, but it's Woodbury they face. Woodbury, the team that beat Washburn, although Woodbury, after that, really had a rough year this year. I think a lot of folks had them as a favorite. Holdall with the draining triple. That's her second.
Central really has to watch out right now.
We're at 12, 18-6. that danger zone you spoke of, and Jazanae Patterson swoops in for a rebound. Shepard is open. There's the mid-range shot, but she's off the heel this time. Rebound, Jada Jones, she'll back off.
I think right now Central needs to settle down a little bit and look to get a good high-quality shot, and maybe not challenge Coley as much down there. Get it going elsewhere.
Shera will take it to Coley, and Coley boxes her away.
Well, right on cue. They're just not finishing down there. She's protecting the rim very well.
Coley called for traveling. Good job by Central's defense to ride with her.
Look like Cheryl's going out. She probably needed that break big time there. She's playing hard.
And you probably have faced this. Of course, you played a lot of tough teams. So how do you train your team? Obviously, off-season or conditioning is a big role in that. But how do you prepare your team for the tempo of Washburn, where it's up-tempo in your face and very aggressive?
Well, in my case, it's good to have athleticism. But
you have plenty of that in the South Suburban.
That's right. But I think it comes down to, we get them for a month and a half maybe, but overall attitude of working out on their own, and making sure they're in good shape once the season comes around. And you don't have to spend as much time on getting them in shape. They're already there.
Smith missing the drive, and Greenwald couldn't follow. Dead ball rebound to the Millers. And that athleticism shows. So you have to play the section, of course, but your conference could conceivably have 3 teams in the 4A bracket.
And that's definitely true. And
you had to face one of those rivals last year.
Exactly.
That's going to be a traveling violation on Jazanae Patterson.
Yeah, if everything goes well, I hope to be facing that team in the final.
Which one? I mean, Lakeville North's in 1, Eastview's in 2. You could see either of them.
Well, no disrespect to Lakeville North, but that rivalry we got with Eastview is something special right now.
Well, keep in mind, Lakeville North was one of the teams to beat Hopkins, so there is a parity we haven't seen before in 4A, and I'm looking forward to it. Curtis Evans missing the runner, and Central just seems erratic.
I totally agree. There's no one taking charge, settle them down.
Chase Coley, that was a deflection, and she'll be hit with the elbow. Greenwald drawing the offensive foul.
I think if they could somehow just hang around, manufacture a couple points, slow Washburn down a little bit, maybe by having a good offensive possession, they can inch back in this and, at least get it down to double single digits before the halftime buzzer.
And Central known for playing a quick tempo themselves, but I'm sensing the same thing. They're trying so hard to get baskets that they're not necessarily executing their sets properly.
And this is right here is good. The ball was on one side, it went to the other. I think if they score or not, this is a good possession for them.
Williams missing the hook shot.
Well, with Coley sitting out as well, they really got to attack this rim, but they have to finish.
And this is Washburn's 3rd game in 3 days. There's a steal for Williams, and she missed the bunny.
That's just tough in games like this.
And Central still trailing by 12.
It's interesting to see that they stayed in the zone with Coley out. I thought maybe they might be able to get some more pressure, and maybe go back to the zone when she gets in.
And considering how they're shooting from 3-point range, Renikoff, that was deflected. Here's Smith weaving through once again. Central just seems in a hurry to get points up, and they're not settling down and focusing on their strengths.
Right. I kind of went over a couple keys, in my head before this game, and I got it right here in front of me. Can Central get any paint points? And they have opportunities. Now Coley, once Coley gets back in, it's going to get tougher. They have to finish these.
One player I'm sure you don't mind having to scout against in your upcoming playoff run.
That's definitely she could play any conference, any league in this state.
Well, she's going to Iowa, and they have a history of procuring top-level Minnesota talent. Thierra Taylor was recently honored in senior night. Kasheen Alexander, if you go back a few years, she's an assistant coach at Concordia. Zellner Smith missing the mid-range shot. Bethany Doolittle, who's down there now from Hill Murray.
That was good work by Smith right there to get back in that play and get that deflection. That might have saved the bucket.
We've been stuck at 18-6 for a while. As we mentioned, Washburn's third game in 3 days. Coley's back in. This could make things tough for Central.
I agree. They missed the opportunity there.
They didn't get any points with Coley on the bench. Jada Jones draws the foul.
Jada Jones' foul will shoot 2 for the Minutemen.
I see that Central, they're not having a problem getting in the paint and getting to the basket. They might want to think about, with Coley blocking, trying to block every shot, maybe going into her body and getting a second foul.
Jones splitting from the free throw line. Coley against Sherrill, kicks out to Renikoff.
That's an excellent pass by Coley right there.
And that's an example of the versatile leadership she possesses. Very unselfish player.
With her court sense and awareness, she knew she had a double team there. She drew the defense in, and she's unselfish.
And she was called up, didn't make it to the McDonald's All-American game, but was called up to the undercard to that event, metaphorically speaking, so she will get to participate in a national all-star game coming up in April.
Wow.
And a great backstory, too. But hang on a second, Smith had the steal. Lyric Williams hooks up with Sherrill, almost lost her dribble, and Sherrill recovers. Central needed that bucket.
They really did. She settled herself, watched where, looked where Coley was, and went up with a score.
Coley again, turnaround, that's going to be traveling. That's the second time she's been hit with a traveling call.
Well, I will tell you this. I mean, Sherrill, she might not be as tall as Coley, but she has the body to bother her and physical her up a little bit.
Sherrill recently crossed the 1,000-point milestone. Did that in their win on Thursday over Johnson.
And, I think that's a big accomplishment for her.
Williams missing the three-pointer.
Getting back to that point, being that they've had talent at here, you're not the only person. You get these numbers, 2,000 and 3,000 points in a career. You got to wonder about that sometimes.
Well, last year, everyone was focused as Jada Jones. Bullseye! Let's see if that gives Central a little energy. But everyone made a big deal about Rebecca Dahlman and her 5,060 career points. Carly Wayner broke the 3,000 mark. Tia Albert from Tartan. Everyone makes a big deal about those, and it seems like everyone gets 1,000 points. That's harder than it looks. Hold on, count it!
Wow. You gotta love that. It's me being a coach. A lunch pail type bucket right there. Put a hard hat on, went to work down there.
And it's those players, I believe, that hold more influence in a team's fate than the stars, because, not to make an example out of you, but Kanisha Bell is going to be productive.
Well, exactly, and I think a lot of, those stars on the team are starting to recognize that, and they're using those girls and instilling confidence in them, because you definitely need them to make a run to try to win it all.
But it says something when the top teams are able to use their stars as motivators rather than intimidators.
If you get them to buy in, nice pass.
It's the system at St. Paul Johnson. Vern Simmons has instilled. Plenty of stars. They could start on any other team. Coley was calling for it. Instead, they'll hook up for Shepard. That's on the line, but she draws a foul. She'll shoot 2. St. Paul Johnson, though, runs that style where any of those players could start on another team, but they sacrifice individual numbers for a strong team game, and that's why they're always in the state tournament. Larry McKenzie, Minneapolis North, same philosophy. Brian Cosgriff at Hopkins.
You definitely, list goes on and on, huh?
Faith Johnson Patterson.
Well,
Willie Taylor even.
Well, there's one thing in common there. They all have state rings.
Emma Shepard at the line, 7 points per game. And a 44% field goal shooter. Misses both free throws though, and Washburn just 1 of 6.
Well, I'll tell you what, Central's hanging around.
And Asia Smith with the triple. You talk about weathering through adversity, and with these 18-minute halves, a lot of time for runs to develop. So if you can get through some of those bumps without too much damage, that happens. Central getting some momentum now.
Well, I'll tell you what, the 2-3 zone, they're starting to figure out how Washburn is attacking it, and they're making the adjustment. So now it's not as easy to get those open looks, a ball reversal, and so forth. So I like this right now, what Central's doing. They're really spreading it out. They get the back cuts. They just need to settle down here.
Smith again, feeling it.
I think Coley might think about taking a timeout here.
12-point deficit reduced to 5. Coley with the touch, elbow jumper, still not hitting it. Follows her own shot, can't get the bounce. Coley struggling on the mid-range jumpers today. If Central scores here, I expect a timeout call. Smith again, almost called glass. Central getting scrappy now. Lyric Williams missing the 16-footer. Coley with the board. Trying to get by Williams. And Williams just poked the ball away, and she was trying to evade to avoid the foul.
Good teamwork here.
Chelsea Kizar with the score. And we're looking at a 1-possession game.
Coach Coley still holding on to that timeout.
And he's got all 5. And Holdall just walked into a trap. Jones had an opening, and that's a traveling violation. From my vantage point, it looked like Jones held up for a moment, not sure what she should do in that situation, and that's what cost her.
Well, I'll tell you one other thing, though. Early on, Central had their hands on their hips. I'm looking at Washburn a little bit now, and you mentioned that, the amount of games due to the weather reschedulements. This game of runs right now.
And part of that could be mental, too. You went up by 12, now Central goes on a run, and that's down to 3. You're starting to feel a little deflated.
Well, that's a credit to Central right there, staying in there.
And Central, seeing this team once before, Washburn keeps it. Seeing this team last year, yes, different members, and there's the timeout from Tyler Coley. They're not going to let an early deficit intimidate them at this point.
Well, and that's done philosophy in your team. It's preached by the coaching staff year after year. You want mentally tough, mentally strong kids.
So in this timeout, we've been talking about Central's run. Looking at their section, you've seen some of these 4A teams. Central getting the 3 seed, playing Woodbury. White Bear Lake the top seed. Roseville and Tartan also hosting first-round games. Who do you like in that section? Who do you think could come out of there?
Right now, my favorite would be Roseville. I think they've been on the cusp of getting to the state tournaments the last couple of years. They just had an impressive win against White Bear Lake last night, actually. So, I look for them to maybe come out of there.
Roseville's had the talent for years. Chase Coley posting up.
Well, right there, that was a good move by Coley to call that timeout. Get it down to your breadwinner. Finish at the basket.
And get your offense centered on your cornerstone. Of course, in that section, Jada Jones missing the 3 on the follow-through, and the putback is number 20, Hasia Richards.
Who actually just played in the JV championship.
And you can do that in high school ball, play in the JV and varsity. You have up to 3 halves of eligibility in a game.
Good defense right here.
That's Aaliyah Curtis Evans, and she draws the foul on Wilson.
Well, it looked like Central, maybe they listened to me as far as getting out of that zone. They're getting a little ball pressure
Are
up
you
here.
secretly texting notes to the coaching staff? Hey, do this. You're like, like that Buffalo Wild Wings commercial. You want overtime, don't you?
That's right. You know, us coaches, we smarter than a lot of people think. She did a great job of seeing that, and, you know, she did that all on her own.
And in all seriousness, it's a big fraternity. A lot of coaches know each other. They often greet each other at games. They're rivals on the floor, but after that, there's Coley with another block.
Well, that's where you got to be smart and kick it out to the shooter there. You can't challenge probably all-time shot blocker.
Who holds a record that may not be broken for many years. Her mark as Central missing another basket.
I'll tell you what, they keep attacking that rim, though. I got to give it to them. They're not scared to go in there.
But Chase Coley, based on our last numbers, and there's some games that have yet to be entered, but she already has 124 more blocks than Savannah Trapp, who previously held that mark. And with a few more games, probably looking at a deep run, it's going to be tough for anyone to make a run at that category.
I would agree with that. Right there on that last inbound play, Central did a good job of giving them different looks on the screens and actually had the screeners actually come back to the basketball wide open.
Kennedy Gay drawing the foul. She gets 4.9 points, 5.4 rebounds a game. 58% free throw shooter, and that's a difference between Central and Washburn. Central doesn't have strong free throw shooters as far as percentage. Coley and Renikoff get about 80% for the Millers.
Well, you know as well as I do as far as watching games, as many as you watch, that could hurt you in the playoffs.
Central running full court again. Kizard on the finish. We're looking at a 1-point game all of a sudden.
I think Central might be here to stay with this one now, as far as turning the tide of this game.
25-24. 18-7 spurred by the Minutemen. Holdall draws a foul. That was Central's last to give.
Right there, the ref is reprimanding Coach Tyler Coley a little bit there. I've seen that before on my end.
Tyler, a very animated coach. One of the most enthusiastic ones, though.
Well, that passion comes out in you.
Well, and I like to see that out of coaches. Some might see it as conceded. Zellner Smith drove the foul and Washburn in the bonus here. But coaches like Tyler Coley, who believe they can win every game, even if that's not reasonably possible, you want to see that. You don't want to see coaches dreading a matchup. You want to see somebody that, who cares if you've got to face Hopkins or Minnetonka or New Richland. You feel like you can win every game.
You feel like you can win. When your girls see you into the game, running up and down the sidelines, waving your arms, they have no choice but to, do that same, and that emotion and intensity comes out of you into your players.
Raina Sherrow getting called for the foul. That's her second personal. 1-on-1 situation for Kendra Zellner Smith. She has yet to score.
For the Millers, Kendra Zellner Smith.
And now she's on the board.
I would say this last minute and 46 here might tell the story of this game. As far as can Central get over the hump here and actually take a lead going in, or can Washburn hold them off?
Zellner Smith needed the rim, but makes both free throws. They've kept Coley and Renikoff away from there for the most part. Those are your two strongest shooters.
Well, now look, they're spreading it out again. They're trying to pull Coley away from the basket. I think that's a good tactic right now. Especially if who she's guarding can knock down an open shot out there. She can't just sit in the paint.
Right, if they start feeling it from outside, you have to respect that.
They're going a little small ball here.
Essia Smith weaving through, but Kennedy Gay on the backside. That's one way to get past Chase Coley, have a weak side rebounder.
That dribble drive worked to perfection right there.
Coley drawing the triple team, and she draws the foul on Kizart. That was great awareness by Coley, knowing she drew coverage and forced Central to spread out again, just with a simple kick out.
I'll tell you what, right there, that was pretty impressive how she kind of tied her up there. Referee, I guess, saw a little body contact.
We don't have the benefit of replays. I will say this, whether or not the call was right, it's hard when you have to make those judgments in real time.
Definitely, I agree with that. But, you know, it's a coach over here on the mic.
There's some calls you probably wish went the other way, right?
That's right.
Colin making both free throws, as we said, shooting near 80% from the charity stripe, and that's one area she really stepped up in. Last year she was about 50% or 60%, and she has stepped up in a big way. That's going to only help her when she gets to Iowa.
No doubt about it. You know, the length that she has, she's a matchup nightmare, and she can put it on the floor, and that's only going to get better. She's going to get to the line.
Jones used up the dribble, goes to Smith. Williams with under a minute to play. High arcing three, pure. And we're tied at 29.
I'll tell you, this tactic of spreading it out is working pretty well.
Williams perhaps is the highest arcing shot I've seen this season, but it works. Renikoff drew the foul. More free throws coming.
You know, it was a foul there, but I didn't mind the fact that she made her work the entire length of the court. You know, that wears a player down as the game goes on.
That's a foul you don't mind giving up as opposed to a cheap backcourt foul, for example.
Right. I mean, she's a good free throw shooter, but I think what we're looking at is, will she have the energy to handle that ball late in this game, under the 10-minute mark in that second half? And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Every possession counts.
And that's a foul that says, I'm not going to back away from you even if I put you to the line. You want your points, you're going to have to beat me for them. Contrast to what I saw in the freshman game, it was Central and Washburn there, and a Central player knew she was going to get fouled. She just waited for it. It was like, all right, come on and foul me. South playing in the JV game, and they've got another Hill up and coming.
I must say that was a pretty entertaining game for the JV level.
And I have a feeling Morgan Hill will be doing some big things in varsity next season. Williams couldn't hit the three-pointer, but an offensive rebound. Curtis Evans, that's strong. Another rebound. Kennedy Gay, and she draws a foul. Pauly back on the bench, so this is a good chance for Central to perhaps take the lead.
Yeah, they're controlling the boards right now. That's somewhat surprising. And, you know, that either is the Central is that scrappy or Washburn just playing out, finding bodies and boxing out.
Well, when you have a coach who was raised in Willie Taylor's system, Marta Wallen, a 2004 graduate of St. Paul Central, an assistant for the last couple of years, the biggest transition is simply getting used to a different name, different player out there, different person. But the system is not that different, and I think that helps the transition when you switch coaches. Gay splits, and we're tied up.
Here we go, another deep one.
Coley held up by Richards, but then she beats her. That's it, youth versus experience, and experience winning out.
See if Central could get a good shot here under 10 seconds.
Plenty of time, 5 seconds. Williams finds Gay on the corner, and she's fouled. As we said, Zellner Smith, the more raw of the players, more prone to those miscues, and Kennedy Gay, with 3 free throws, could take the lead here.
Well, I think by Central attacking the basket, and I know they weren't finishing early on in the game, it's making Washburn pack everyone in the paint, and everybody's over-helping. And right there, that did a good job of kicking it out to a wide-open shooter.
Kennedy Gay started in the Benilde game because Jada Jones was taking the ACT, a reasonable absence, that's a big deal for high school students. Oh, they only gave her 2. I thought she was behind the 3-point line, but that ties the game up.
Wow.
I don't think anyone touched it.
I know they don't have the benefit of being in my angle here, but I did see a fingertip there.
The officials will have a discussion. If there was a touch, it was very close. Again, at real time, it looked like the pass sailed over her head, but that's what the officials are talking about. Did Coley touch the ball? And this is big because if it's ruled... Wow. This is big because Central can inbound under their own basket. And
yeah, she's saying it right now, Coley. I saw a fingertip there.
And with 0.4 of a second, that's enough time to catch and shoot. But hang on here, we're not quite finished.
I think what Coley is saying is that the Central girl actually is the one that got the deflection. But the referees called no deflection, so that's kind of a moot point.
And again, it's significant because underneath their own basket, 0.4 of a second is plenty of time, and we've seen Central extend the ball. They can get a 3-pointer off in 0.4 of a second. How often do you run this drill in practice? So that's where we're going to go with that. They say no touch. And Central inbounds underneath their basket, 0.4 of a second. Again, enough time for a catch and shoot. You can't dribble. That will count if it goes. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
Lyric Williams. I thought it was a little bit late.
I would have to agree with you there, but
the officials' ruling is the one that counts, and Lyric Williams gives Central a 35-32 lead.
well, hey, that last minute and 36 seconds, I remember making that point. Can Central actually take the lead? Or Washburn hold them off? I guess we got our answer.
Well, I guess you'll be running this drill with your Kennedy players in practice.
That's right.
So we're at halftime here with 35-32, and normally we go to a break, but we have a couple of things we want to address. We talked about Central section in 4A. We'll get to yours in a moment, not to create any speculation, because you know as well as anyone that it's playoff time, anyone's game. But looking at Washburn section 6, Class 3A, they got the top seed over Benilde St. Margaret's, and Central beating Benilde back in February, I think, was a big help, especially with Washburn playing a lot of conference opponents. Holy Family Catholic picked as a sleeper. Richfield has had some wins, although they've struggled a bit as of late. What do you see? Who do you like in that section?
Well, you know, you got to go with Washburn with the simple fact that Chase Coley is all-state performer. You know, they've been there last year. So, you know, I'm thinking Washburn has the upper hand there. But Benilde St. Margaret's will give them a good matchup.
Benilde St. Margaret's having a U of M recruiting Grace Coughlin, and she almost orchestrated a come-from-behind effort for Benilde. Central was up for most of the game, and then Grace hit a couple of three-pointers, and Central had to sweat it out, winning that one by a single point, or 3 points actually. And you're in section 2. The seedings weren't out quite yet because Shakopee, you said, had to make up a game. But that's actually going to be a tight section in a sense, because in the 3-4-5 slot all season, you had Chaska, Chanhassen, and Lakeville South all battling, not just for seeding, but home court for that first game.
Well,
and
right.
We talked earlier, Lakeville South suffering a loss to Apple Valley last night might knock them out and force them to play on the road against the Chanhassen team that beat them last year.
Right, and you know, and that's huge. I mean, in that matchup, I mean, and that had to have something to do with the, you know, Chanhassen knocking them off last year. It just gives you that confidence. You know, they're smaller or less competitive, I would say, as far as top to bottom team wise. than we are in the South Suburban. So you need any advantage at that point.
And how about Chaska? I mean, they went down to 3A for a little while after the Chaska-Chanhassen split. Folks were wondering what's this going to mean, and then they go back up to 4A, and they've been performing admirably.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, a couple head scratcher, you know, losses, but you know, they're a senior laden team.
What team doesn't have those at this point?
They're senior laden, well coached. You know, I mean, they've been right there as far as trying to get into the, you know, it's at the 3A level. You know, so I mean, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
And again, your team notwithstanding, what if for the teams that do get to state, whatever happens in this section, we mentioned it's a wide open field. What do you think that means for some of those teams? Because I think everybody wants to get a run at Hopkins, and we saw Lakeville North put together a big game. They won by 15 over at the Lindbergh Center. Minnetonka beat them. Eastview beat them. And what everyone thought was going to be another Hopkins route to the title now is more unpredictable.
Well, I mean, if you're around this game and you know the personnel, the teams, and you know, every team loses some kids to graduation, you got transfers, and you look at that roster, you know, we're out scouting these teams all the time. You know, I said that coming in, that this is not the same Hopkins team. Now, that's not saying that they're strong, because obviously they are a strong team. But to lose the caliber of players they lost to graduation last year, you can't help but take a step back to the pack, so to speak. You got Coffey, who's a McDonald's All-American. Who's the player down in Illinois there, Shackelford.
Michaela Shackelford.
Anderson, who is a track athlete at UConn. You know, and then you got O'Toole Big Country out there playing some ball, you know.
And Nia Coffey and running for Freshman of the Year in the Big Ten Conference, so you can still see the impact of Brian Cosgriff, but they do say it's a great equalizer. And as a coach, how do you handle that? Because you know there are going to be some years where you have a senior-heavy group, other years where you have some players you can build on. Larry McKenzie has that with North, where he doesn't have any seniors on that team. He has 3 sophomores, so he's looking at a core he can utilize for the next 2 years. How do you handle that element? Because it's different in that level in college than it is in the pros, where it comes down to contracts and trades. Here, you know, I've only got this player for X amount of years, and then I've got to figure something out.
Well, it's all about your senior class this year. What are they doing off season, from the start of practice, in school, in the hallways? Are they talking to the younger kids, making sure they're getting ready for the season, you know, teaching them things, leading by example, leading vocally at all times, making sure they're getting their schoolwork in, you know, all that stuff. And what that's doing is creating good seniors when they become seniors, you know, and you have to have that in the program. And that's what I will give Hopkins credit to that. They did a good job of that. So you look at someone like a T.T. Starkson, Livingston, you know, they're not even still seniors yet, but yet they look what they learned from. I mean, it's nothing better than that.
And talking about that academic part of it, it sometimes varies with team to team, but a lot of folks I talk to, Eastview recently, Washburn, Chase Coley is averaging in the mid 3.5, somewhere around that range in GPA. How do you make sure they stay focused on academics, and how much involvement as a coach do you make? Or are the players, do they find enough motivation themselves? Do you have to give them a prod? How do you factor that into your equation?
Well, you figure that out. I mean, every player is different. Every player is treated differently. I myself, I can speak for myself. You know, I have access to their grades every day. You know, out in Bloomington Public Schools, they do a good job of, you know, each week they keep a running tally of where their grade is sitting. You know, if I see it's in a danger area, so to speak, you know, we sit down and talk with the kids. I get in touch with the parents, because at the end of the day, I'm school first all the way. Basketball is just the fun part about it. But if we can, you know, it's a wonderful marriage, though, when you can play high school athletics and then still, you know, do well in the classroom, because that's what it's all about.
And for most of these players, we talk about all the colleges they're going to. We know Kenesha Bell's going to Marquette, and that gets a lot of coverage. Jade Martin last year at Georgetown. Here you've got Chase Coley going to Iowa, Raina Shero getting some looks at D1 schools. But a lot of these players, even if they go on to college, that usually is the pinnacle for them, and then they move on to a new career. You get your exceptions, Taylor Hill, Tamara Moore if you go back a few years, those who can get in the NBA or professional for a little while. But most of these players, if you can get them to understand that there is something after basketball, then more than likely that's what they'll have to pursue. They really absorb that message.
Yeah, well, they do. You know, and that's done from freshman year. You know, whether they're on your varsity as a 9th grader, and in some instances I've been lucky to have some 8th graders, you know, last year, and, you know, now I got one this year, you know, so.
Start them young, right?
Well, the earlier the better, in my opinion, not as far as, you know, athletically all the time, just from the fact that you can start mentoring them.
Now, we talked a little bit about the Class 4A bracket, what we could see out of state there, and I know 3A you start getting into the out of metro schools a little bit, but you still see a lot of metro teams. It looks like De La Salle may not be back to defend their title, but we don't know. They could come up with a surge in their section. Who do you like coming out of that group? Washburn, I would say, is a dark horse of sorts because they don't have the undefeated record, and the pollsters often favor teams with those unblemished marks. So Fergus Falls, New Prague. As you're pulling up that info, we've got Washburn in the mix, Monticello's in the top 10. Yeah. 3A was considered the most unpredictable, the most wild bracket. Who do you like out of that group?
Well, I think it's, you know, once you get, I think the top 3 coming in, you know, obviously I'm trying to predict the future as far as section. You know, and I don't want to disrespect any teams out there as a coach. You don't like saying it. But Washburn, you got Fergus Falls. And then and I believe it's Marshall.
Marshall's
3A.
up.
Yeah.
They've, I think, just one loss this season.
Now,
they haven't played the same caliber of teams, but you have to consider
right.
the record, and a lot of those players are volleyball crossovers.
Well, and you know, this last team, actually, if I could put a 4th in, I can't believe I forgot them because they actually beat us early in the season. Kayla McMorris led Park Center team.
Right. And
you know,
Park Center, that's what they're in the same section as De La Salle, a team that they've had to deal with, but
yeah.
De La Salle vulnerable this time. This could be Park Center's best chance.
Well, they play in a mainly 4A conference, you know. So,
right, Northwest Suburban.
You talk
and
about
they
battle
beat some
test.
of those teams.
Well, right, like I said,
just 5 losses, I think, this year.
Yeah, you know, you got a Division I player, and McMorris going to Wisconsin. You know, you got a chance.
Although they won't have Hannah Schaub. She tore her ACL earlier this week, and that's going to hurt them because Park Center, a very young team outside of McMorris, but I covered them in their first game of the season against Como Park, and they turned that one into a rout.
Well, as a coach, you hate to hear stories like that. All coaches. I mean, me and Melissa Giebert, I got Tyra Spencer back from an injury, and she's meant the world to us coming back. And then, you know, Melissa Giebert was talking Melissa Berry, and then she had another guard that had some knee injuries. You hate that.
It's always tough to see on TT Starks even. She's had to fight off some injuries with Hopkins. Michaela Shackelford, she had an ACL tear and missed most of the junior season.
Well, it's a definite part of the women's game, you know. You know, you got all these doctors and people trying to figure out what's the reason why they have more ACL injuries. You know, who knows? I mean, these girls out here playing hard, you know. You know.
And until we can put in, I guess, robotic knees, Terminator style, I guess, it's something you have to prepare and condition yourself for.
Wow, here we go. We ended the first half with some referee conferences.
And
now we're starting the second half with one. What's going to happen in this last 5 minutes, boy?
And we're not even in section play yet.
Exactly.
Chase Coley, the leading scorer with 14 points. The leading central players really don't have any because 4 of them have 6. Kizart, Williams, Jones, and Smith all have 6 points.
Well, right now, Central's coming out with some, some baseline screens here.
Cheryl open, and she got it.
I tell you what, that was beautiful coming out of halftime. Obviously, they talked about what they wanted to do first possession.
And they were able to force Chase Coley away from the paint. Hold on for three. Well, she gets her a rebound because everybody was standing there waiting to see if the ball would fall in. Zellner Smith was deflected by Kizard. Coley on the fadeaway gets the roll. Well, we see Washburn opening up with the same consistency of offensive rebounding we saw from Central in the first half.
Exactly. That's going to be key. I like to call the 50-50 balls are key, especially in the playoff.
Sherrow, blocked by Coley, and it will go to Washburn. And we talk about Coley's blocking. One reason she's able to get so many of them, because she has such long arms, 6'7" wingspan, and her ability to anticipate. She can block balls at the point of release, whereas most shooters try to do it while the arm is extended.
Right. Well, I think part of that, you can gauge if a shooter goes off 1 foot or 2 feet. You kind of know when the ball is going to go to the apex.
Dead ball rebound to Washburn. And speaking of coaches, we talked about Willie Taylor. I see he's in attendance. He's an assistant coach at Hamlin now, so he might be here looking at some potential players for next year's Pipers team.
Well, yeah, I see White Bear Lake is here with part of their team. Obviously, they're looking at, they're in the same section.
They're looking at a possible meeting with Central.
And you like that when the kids come out and actually watch the game, too. That means they're invested.
Well, when the fall leagues and AAU, and we're going to have a foul on Holdall. We mentioned the fraternity among coaches. It's the same with the players. A lot of the players are familiar with each other. If it's not high school ball, they're AAU teammates, or maybe they just play with each other in rec leagues.
Yeah.
They go to games together. You hang around this long enough and you realize they're rivals on the court, but that's as far as it goes.
Yeah, and, I make sure they're aware of that too. We kiss and hug after the game.
Well, one of your players last, Jade Martin, one of her best friends, the Coffee Sisters.
Exactly, and no love lost during that title game last year.
No love lost, but as soon as it was over, I remember talking with Jade, and she said she was bummed that she couldn't go on a vacation with Nia Coffee because of all the All-Star games. But we have a foul on Kendra Zellner Smith, but she was happy that Nia got that opportunity. And Jade, well, not to knock on her, she got into the All-Star Series.
That's right.
For the Coaches Association, so you can't exactly say she had a lackluster high school career.
No, not at all. And, she's getting, some quality minutes out there at Georgetown. They're not having as good a season as they would like right now, but and I've been able to catch a couple games on TV, actually. Fox Sports 1.
Gotta love the new FS1.
Yes, they show a lot of the Big East women's games.
The new contract with Big East 2.0.
Well, which makes me happy because I got 2 players, St. John's, Tono Away going to St. John's, and Bell going to Marquette. I get to watch them.
You're gonna have a hard time balancing the schedule next year. Asia Smith made both free throws on the other end for Central. Redikoff with a fake and the finish. Pulling a clutch move there.
Well, I'll tell you, I'd like to see a little bit more out of her, as far as trying to get into the paint.
She's up to 9 points, and again, she has a capability of getting big games. Usually it's Chase who puts up the gaudy numbers. Smith for 3.
Boy, that was right on line there.
And Smith has more than just one rooting interest here. Curtis Evans missing the elbow. I'll get to that point in a minute. Coley with what seems like her 950th rebound of the game. Williams with the steal. Wilson could not get a clean handle, and Lyric Williams will get them to the hole.
You got to be strong with the ball in these type of games. You have to be ready for that. You got to sweep the ball and bounce pass, fake and make.
41-36. Coley, elbow, still not hitting those. And Zellner Smith drew the foul. I thought that was a clean strip. So she'll shoot free throws.
Fouls on the Minneapolis, Jake Jones.
I guess I figure out why I'm over here. We've seen a few calls that you could say go the other way, but it's tough at this level.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to do that shoes.
And not to mention some of them,
Some
of them are in the same community. Some like Crystal Flint, she does officiating, but she also coaches her sons in youth ball, and Josh Thoreau, the Minnehaha Academy girls coach, will ref boys games. So a lot of the folks you see in the basketball court take on those shoes.
I'll tell you what, if Central can fix this, offensive rebounding problem that they're allowing Washburn to get, they could open up a little lead here, because I just like what they're doing on the offensive end as far as taking their time a little bit more, kind of like what I mentioned in the first half, and they're starting to wear Washburn down.
Zellner Smith subbed out after hitting the back end of the free throws. And Central has a 4-point lead. There you hear another swat from Coley. Oh, Renikoff. You hate to see those. Even though I'm supposed to be neutral, you just hate to see that when a player knows they made a mistake.
Well, with her right there, she doesn't usually make those mistakes. Some players, you get away with that. As far as that, some players might get pulled after that right there, but
it's just tough to see a player know they committed an error and wish they could get it back.
Well, with her,
that's the softy in me.
Well, that's okay, because she's the type of player, she'll come back strong and make a play the next time she gets it.
She won't let it get to her. A lot of curls. And there's another play from Chase Coley, swatting it away from Greenewald.
Well, exactly, deflections, man. I can't stress that enough. I wish they would actually keep a stat, as far as
on deflections.
Yeah.
I know they do that in football, but in basketball, not as much. But
as I see my All-State point guard, Kanisha Bell, just walk past me.
Coley got Greenewald riding alongside, and Coley will shoot a pair.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if she starts to do a little bit of that, as we get here late here. They're down 4. I just, hope she doesn't force the issue. But, with her length and putting it on the floor, there you go.
Will she decide to take that leadership? And I guess my next question, are you going to pass along any of these notes from this game over to your point guard over there?
Oh, yeah, she loves the game. She told me she was going to come. She'll be at the boys' playoff game, Kennedy Jefferson, tonight.
That's a big one.
Oh, yeah. You got to love that if your point guard is a gym rat like that.
She's a sponge, and I'm not saying that because she's here. Coley making both free throws. She's up to 18 points.
So right now you got a 1-2-2 look here from Washburn.
Trying to get around Central's ball spread.
Well, and this is kind of bothering them a little bit here. Not able to get the ball reversal they like. There you go. I don't know.
You become the fortune teller today.
I tell you what, Central might think about calling a timeout next time they get the ball to address the change of defense Washburn made there.
And both teams have a bunch of them remaining.
Exactly. You can't take them home with you.
I know teams will save them. Teams will save them in the first half because they want to use them in the late game situations. But you're right. They don't carry over for they only carry over for so long. Of course, when you get to the state tournament round, you get a bunch of free ones.
Well, they're still in it.
Well, it's one of those you keep that formation until your opponent figures out a way around it.
If not broke, don't fix it, right? Well, I'll tell you, Cheryl. Wow.
Or you can go to Lyric Williams, who can hit the moon with her arcing shot, and she banks it off the glass.
I'll tell you what, she did that, but as a coach of Washburn, I could live with that. That's a low percentage shot.
Coley.
Wow. Little rebound there, but she threw it away.
Renikoff has had a couple of plays she'd want to have back here in the last few possessions.
So right now here attacking this 1-2-2, they got to put someone in the middle at the free throw line area.
Jada Jones weaves through it.
Well, what do I know? Just drive down the middle.
Well, you said put someone in the free throw line area. Jones got in the paint. Technically not the 15-foot line, but there's a hole.
Big possession here for Washburn.
They were up by 12. Now they trail by 6. Shepard on the line. That's off the mark. Washburn historically has struggled against the 4A teams. Coley on the step.
Yeah,
and she draws another foul.
Well, that's what you got to do. You need a bucket.
Oh, they give her the bucket. I didn't see that at first.
Yep. You go to your all-star, settle them down a little bit.
You go to the player, who models her game after Elena Deladon. And the motto that she and her teammates use comes from Russell Wilson, the Super Bowl champion quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. And it boils down to 3 words: consistent, dominant, and clutch.
Wow.
What the heck?
Hey, was that me that said I was confident she'll come back and make a play?
I think that was ball karma giving her a boost.
See, right now again, Central still has no one in the middle of this zone.
And a trap, 10-second violation on Jada Jones.
You have to put someone in the middle.
And I've always said this, it's a pet peeve of mine. If you're getting double teamed, get someone back there to help you in the backcourt, because you can send someone back there and not get a backcourt violation.
Exactly. Well, in traps like that, you got to keep it out of the corner areas. You have to attack the middle.
Wilson missing the three-pointer.
Wow.
Coley swoops in for the rebound.
That was a Big Ten rebound right there.
Big-time rebound for the future Big Ten recruit. And she's starting to step up. We're tied at 45.
I'll tell you what. I know they can't dunk in the girls' game. There's that middle there.
Backcourt violation. Asia Smith.
There's a timeout getting called here. I'll tell you what. That play by Renikoff, that really got them going there. I mean, that right there, I would say, is equivalent of a dunk in boys basketball. You know, as far as, it gets you going.
And last season, we saw the same effect. Betsy McDonald, I was covering the game against Chanhassen. Central won that one in overtime. Minutemen were down by 4, and they just woke up when McDonald got a similar underhand shot off. You're always baffled at how they go in because it looks so surprising, but that's all it takes sometimes. And I'm not one that hypes up momentum that much, but when you can get your team confident, it's a big deal.
Oh, I definitely. I mean, this last 11 minutes here, you get any emotional edge or mental edge, sometimes that's the difference in the ball game.
It's something that, even Tony Gear stressed. The late Tony Gear, when he was coach at AAU down in Iowa, once had his players get together because they were missing shots and just had them visualize those shots in practice, and that orchestrated a comeback.
Exactly.
The mental edge right now favoring the Millers. And again, different story from what we saw last year, where Central ran away with this game after both teams struggled early on. This is a battle you're likely going to see in the state tournament round. You won't see these two teams, of course.
Good
There's
crossover.
Asia Smith with the steal.
Nice pass.
Bounce pass to Williams. Smith on the follow-through, no, but everyone's clogged in the paint, and Central was able to get away. Williams for 3. Bullseye!
Wow. I was afraid Central was going to go back to playing too fast. Slowing down a little bit actually got them back in the game. That 1-2-2 actually sped them up that Washburn put in there, but that was a hell of a shot right there.
Holdall trying to go back door to Shepard, and Sherrow got there in time. Shepard could not get the handle. That allowed Sherrow to get an easy block. And then on the other end, Jones is stripped by Renikoff. Pulls up, rims out. Jones with the rebound. Entering this game, I thought Washburn was going to have the edge, but Central making it work with the small ball strategy outside of Sherrow. They couldn't trap Williams. Sherrow anticipates Coley's block, and she draws the foul. Count it. to say Cheryl is pumped would be an understatement.
Well, she's using her body very well right now. I mean, that's what you have to do against a shot blocker.
Cheryl, the leader of this team, taking over that role from Chapman.
Okay.
Central getting the O-board. Smith can't get the bounce. That would have been a huge possession at Central.
I just have to say, Central just looks fresher.
Shepard. Shepard has been off. Coley with the poke from behind. It bounces to Holdall. She's going outlet to Renikoff. They hook up, and Renikoff couldn't get set up in time, and Washburn with a foul there.
Boy, how many different turns is this game going to take?
Fitting that it's the last regular season game before the playoffs start, because when you get to those later rounds in section, and especially the state bracket, this is what you're going to see.
Well, I'll tell you, for the winner of this game, it's going to, that's a big boost of confidence, and the loser's going to have to regroup, stay tough there, and, understand that it's a new season, as you get going.
I guess in some way it helps that the seedings have already been determined. Smith passed it right to Coley, and 6'3". It's gonna get poked away. Williams with the steal. Kicks out to Jones, lines up the triple.
Wow. Unbelievable court vision and fine there. I think everyone in this gym thought they were gonna lay it off for the layup, but why not go for the three?
Coley, long two, still not hitting the long-range shots today, and another foul. Shepard, I think that's her fourth, has yet to score, and this is a game she will want to put away as soon as possible.
Well, I thought that was a pretty quick shot by Chase right there. I think she might want to get more in the paint.
Well, they give it to Renikoff. That's her third, but you talk about the turns.
Well, 8-0 run after that timeout.
And Central, knowing they don't have perhaps a high-caliber D1 player like they used to, going with balance, using that to wear teams out. And you pegged Roseville as the candidate to get out of that section, but St. Paul Central could sneak their way in. They got there last year. Kizzard, short, and Coley boxing out Cheryl. That allowed Renikoff to get the board.
And that definitely could happen. I mean, Mike, sometimes it's what team is going to show up.
Shepard still shooting a goose egg.
I think right now Washburn has to find a paint shot.
Well, they draw a foul. No team in the penalty yet, but Central's going to focus on keeping Coley from getting the touches.
Well, a college coach of mine when I was a player, he would stress for every 2 missed jump shots, you have to go to the paint. You have to get a paint shot. It allows you to keep that good mix of inside out.
Kizzard with the steal.
Look at that pass.
Hooking up to Williams, who will shoot free throws. And we mentioned the connection, not just with the players, of course, but there's also a connection with the cheerleading squad and the Minutemen. Asia Smith, who's put in some big threes and made some other plays, her mother is the coach of the cheerleading team.
I think it gets lost. They have a big job. They do the same thing as those coaches, checking grades, and all that stuff. They need to get a lot of credit for the stuff they do. They support the team and get the fans involved.
Williams with 15 points, making both free throws. Central 7 of 9, Washburn 9 of 16. Shepard fakes it this time. That's what you're talking about. Hey. Coley maneuvers past Cheryl. Like you said, get to the paint.
Get in the paint. There's a turnover here coming.
Like you talk about, you get into the paint and all of a sudden you wake up.
Well, you got to get easy buckets when you can. When you got to, chase Coley, you got to get it in there.
Coley kicks back out to Renikoff on the backside. Great anticipation. She sensed Kennedy Gay coming, so she pulled up, and Gay was helpless. This is a fun basketball version of a chess match.
Right now, Washburn to settle down.
And Central looking out of sorts.
You know, you got Coley, now she's on the low block.
And she weaves past Cheryl again. And I see what, she scripted that, didn't she? She wants to pad her rebounding numbers.
Hey.
We can't say this, though. Chase Coley at 26 points. She has officially crossed the 2,000-point milestone. I know people might shrug that off with the gaudy numbers of Elbert and Dahlman and Carly Wagner, but 2,000 is very respectable.
That's very respectable. You know, the 1,000 still is. I mean,
anytime you can get 4 digits to your name, that's a big deal.
Well, we don't. I mean, you know, ESPN outside the lines or any other show is not coming in here. I think we put too much emphasis on some of the stats around here with these high school kids, and you know, some of the other stuff gets not looked at as far as, you know, the lunch pail kids and, you know, the assist people. You know, great accomplishment on her. Congratulations to her.
And even with the numbers, a lot of folks just talked about the points. Nobody talked about Rebecca Dahlman getting the career steals record in the state.
Well, exactly.
And Chase Coley, the blocks record. She'll finish in the top 5 for rebounds. I don't know if she'll get the top mark, but
Ooh, risky pass there.
Very dangerous, and it ends up in a turnover. Downing, well, might have wished it was a traveling violation because Central could go fast break, and Cheryl will shoot free throws. But going back to what you said, we talked so much about numbers, and one thing I try to do, some coaches pick up on this, others are a little slower, but that's not their fault. It's just a matter of how comfortable they are with this. I try to find something that highlights their character, like Raina Shero. One, if she had another activity, if it wasn't for basketball, she might take up snowboarding. That's something she's wanted to do. I brought that up to her last year, and she cracked up. And then, of course, I teased her a little bit last year when I was interviewing her teammates. She makes both free throws, Chapman and Betsy McDonald. And then Cheryl runs away.
Well,
it was all in good jest. But
well, right, but they're kids, you know.
Right, but they're not used to having us and Redikoff. Oh, that would have been a big 3.
Yes, it would.
They're not used to seeing us here, and they're not used to necessarily having us find out these tidbits about them. We're always talking about throwing balls away. No, we're talking about their on-court contributions. But even in the WNBA, they put on their pants the same way we do.
I would agree with that. You know, I think sometimes people are a little too serious, and you know, the ones that should be the serious are the ones in the program. Everyone else will just get their popcorn and enjoy and have a great time watching some kids play.
Hold on! You think she'll enjoy that triple?
Wow, that was badly needed right there.
We're at a 3-point game now, 57-54. This is not going to be the runaway of last year. Smith with a bounce pass, and Coley comes in with another rejection. And that, I think, is our first jump ball. Washburn with the possession arrow. But Chase Coley, a lot of folks now know of this story, but her mother died a few years ago of a heart attack. She wears her mother's anklet underneath her socks, and Coley, outside of basketball, very much an athletic nut. If there's a sport, chances are she'll play it. You have to go into the obscure Olympic sports to find activities she hasn't participated in.
Good ball reversal here.
Redikoff missing the 3-pointer. High recoil. And I'm not sure who touched it last. Kizart, you have to give her credit. Most players are going to try to get that rebound. They don't want to leave it up to the officials, but ran out of space.
Well, we get down to this last 5 minutes.
Coley can't draw the foul.
It's going to be a battle of wills here. Who has the legs to hit the jump shots when they're open? Who's still able to dive on the floor and get that loose ball? Who's going to get that valuable save and back in and start a break?
A lot of pride on this game, and as you said, some momentum. The winning team
Tough shot.
Right, but Redikoff is there for the rebound, but she puts up an equally tough shot. Zellner Smith gets it. That's a trap. No, a timeout. I thought they were going to get Redikoff for traveling, but Tyler Colby That's a smart idea. You had 4 of them. Use it. Get your team settled down.
Well, it looked like they were, they were doing a good job of crashing offensive glass, but I wouldn't say they were putting up strong shot attempts. And it looked like they were going to try another one, so he got the timeout in. Settle them down, get it to where it needs to go.
5:43 left. Washburn out of fouls to give. Central still with 1. Central's balance going up against the 1-2 punch of Coley and Renikoff. And here it might hurt Washburn because the 4A schools, you go to those deeper rosters, as you've seen.
Yes.
But in 3A, they don't go as deep.
No.
And playing all these 4A schools, even though, well, they didn't play anyone really in the section, they did face Monticello and beat them by 3. That's one of the teams they could face in state. That training's going to... Smith hits with a foul, and Coley looking at the board as she sees Central's out of fouls to give. You think, why did these schools do that? We talked about this already. For the smaller classes, playing tough shows itself in the postseason. Coley lining it up. That was short. Zellner Smith comes in with a save. Holdall, runner, that rims out. Coley, that's tough when you're under the basket like that, and Zellner Smith hit Kizart from behind, so a 1-and-1 situation coming.
Well, and both teams are being a bonus.
And Zellner Smith with her 4th personal foul. Kizart losing her shoe.
This game definitely might come down to hitting those free throws.
Kizart with 6 points. Central as a team, 9 of 11. And Central, a familiar group. A lot of these players were on varsity last year. Most of them played as reserves with the seniors on Willie Taylor's team. But it's a school you underestimate at your own risk. White Bear Lake and Roseville. White Bear Lake coming here, showing that they're not backing away from this Central group. They will respect their abilities. And Central always has brought a line of athleticism to their teams.
Wow, Washburn really needed to come up with that right there. This could be a killer right here if Central could get a basket.
58-54, 5 minutes and 13 seconds left in regulation. Shepard getting the poke, but Central will hang on to it.
Be interested to see how long Cheryl remains on the bench.
Smith draws the foul on Coley.
Now, see right there, that's kind of what I was mentioning before. When you got a shot blocker like that, they're going to the basket. You got to go into the body. If you go away, she has a length to go away with you and get a deflection or a block shot.
Asia Smith, as we mentioned, her mother, the cheerleading coach, and her mother, a graduate of this school, 1990. And with a lot of the Central programs, most of the coaches and staff were students themselves at this school. Scott Howell, the boys basketball and football coach, a graduate of this school. Smith splitting.
Look at that rebound.
Central can't save it, but you see they are not afraid to bruise their bodies. And I love players who do that. They dive for the balls. They're not afraid to get a bruise or a floor burn, because they know those will heal. Shepard finally gets a mid-range shot to fall, and I like that out of Shepard. She wasn't backing away from her sweet spot, even though she missed her first 5 or 6 attempts. But they leave Curtis Evans open, and she hits the tray.
What an equalizer.
Central up by 6. Central looking to extend their 8-game winning streak. Washburn.
Good drop down there.
And Zellner Smith, that's her first field goal, and Coley getting the assist.
I'll tell you what, though, that isn't a reflection of her game, because she's been all over the court, Smith.
I was going to say Washburn winning their last 10 games, Central winning their last 8, and I guess it's not too surprising when you consider the conferences. St. Paul, Minneapolis, not the strongest, but the fact that these schools don't get too cocky about it and just focus on what they need to do, and if they get an easy win, so be it. They're not apologetic about it. Renikoff fakes the three, goes for two instead, comes up short. Under 4 minutes now with a 4-point game. Curtis Evans got the hook shot past Shepard.
That was a great finish right there. High off the corner of the glass from the bad angle.
Curtis Evans with a quick 5 points. As Washburn, what do you do here? Coley faking the three. Goes for two instead. And now she's hitting the long-range shots.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, this isn't the time in the game where you can trade baskets.
No, but with a 4-point game, it's not exactly comfortable territory either. You can't kill clock, you gotta drive. Kids aren't getting that message. Plenty of time left, 3 minutes. Coley plucked from behind, Washburn keeps it.
I'll tell you what, if Washburn could get a basket here, I would hope Coach Coley would think about using one of those 3 timeouts, just if anything, to give his girls a blow right now.
Coley, that was a tough pass. That's another way of getting it, drawing the foul to stop the clock.
Fouls on the Minutemen, Williams.
Both teams in the penalty now.
Team 7.
Well, if Washburn is going to come back in this game 6 points down here, just under 3 minutes, it's going to be by her doing, whether she's scoring or like she dumped it off that last time for the easy shot for Smith.
Chase Coley closing in on 30. Her career high, as we pointed out earlier, 49. And I think beyond that, I don't think she's cracked 30 all season. Averages 26 a game, and Marta Wallen was hoping Central could contain her, but it's hard to stop Chase. As she hits 30.
Now they're still in the zone. It looks like they're going to a man here.
I wouldn't be surprised at this point because the zone dares your opponent to eat up time. At a 4-point margin, you have some room to try to get steals here. Sherrow couldn't get it. Give credit to Coley for keeping her away from a solid angle. Patterson on the floor now. Zellner Smith finds Coley. Screens for Renikoff.
Tough shot.
Ball still live. Coley has it. Renikoff hits the three. That was Holdall on the shot, I should say.
Was able to get her feet set. Good rotation on that right there.
And we're looking at a 1-point game now. 66-65. 2 minutes to go. Jones poked away. Sherrow on the follow-through, couldn't finish. And they're lucky. Central lucky to get the dead ball rebound. In that instance, Coley trying to draw the foul, didn't get it. And Sherrow missing a couple of bunnies.
Yeah, those you got to capitalize in this juncture of the game, 1 point here.
Smith inbounding it to Jones.
They're still willing to challenge Coley down there.
And Coley will take that challenge. Look at her weaving through traffic. Getting the roll! The most athletic play I've seen out of Coley all season, and this is my 6th Washburn game of the year.
Well, that right there is only going to get better.
And a steal by Zellner Smith. Here she comes, draws the foul. Whoa, and our camera operator just took a beating. That's going to look good on the replay.
Hey, that's what this game is all about. They're sensitive. Pride is on the line.
And look at her. She's going as far as she can. She doesn't want to get hit again. Well, she looks okay. I think my camera's all right. I don't know if we can get that in replay or not. Zellner Smith will shoot two. The foul's on Jada Jones.
Well, what a move by Coley.
Talk about comic relief. But yeah, that last play by Coley stutter steps through traffic, and that's a sign of her versatility. She models her game after Elena Deladon of the Chicago Sky.
Well, the ball handling was just spectacular there, and that's going to do, she's just going to get better in that area.
And those are the post players you're going to see in the future in college and pro ball. Zellner Smith missing both free throws. Again, not the greatest at free throw shooting, so we're still at a 1-point game. Kizar can't get the runner. Williams. Smith is open. Oh, that would have been big. Williams has it. Central getting a plethora of offensive rebounds. Renikoff with the steal. She'll back off.
Good timeout.
And timeout. Washburn had 3 left. Too early for foul and chase here with 51.5. If you're Central, you're going to try to force the steal. But in this situation, what are we going to expect from both teams?
Well, right now, I mean, Central, they don't have to foul right away. I mean, they can maybe look to play some pressure D here as far as trapping, and look for a quick steal. And if you do foul, you got time to let it get to the right person. I would try to get Smith back up there after just missing those 2. But as far as Washburn, you want to get the ball, you want to keep some good spacing, you want to get some cutting going in so you can use that clock. Take advantage of the over-aggression that Central has to put on now, and you might be able to get a backdoor cut for an easy layup. But right now, you want to work some time and get nothing but a paint shot or a layup.
And whatever you do, I would say do not foul Coley or Renikoff. Those are your top free throw shooters. Well,
and I got a feeling that those 2 are going to be touching the ball the majority of the time. So,
in this situation, I think so.
Yep. So, but once it gets out of their hands, Central might want to look to foul if they can't get that quick steal in the first 10 to 15 seconds of this possession.
51.5 remaining. Again, no shot clock, but Washburn can't sit back either. With a 1-point lead, 1 mistake, and they could find themselves trailing. These are the dangerous scenarios I've seen in high school. There's a near steal. Shepard is open.
Not a good shot. Not a good shot. Not a good shot. Central might think about calling timeout here. Oh.
Wow.
She fouls out with that.
She's done. Asia Smith will shoot free throws. It's still 1-1, but Zellner Smith fouls out of the game with 5 points. We've noted this before. Zellner Smith sometimes has that, but one of those lunch pails you talked about, but now she's out of the game.
I have to think that Coach Coley and Coach Percy Wade over there had to say that that's a shot that you just can't take in that situation right there. And then that's a foul you just can't give in that situation. The girls got to keep their head, when the emotions get high.
Asia Smith with 9 points. Needs 1 to tie, 2 for the lead. 1-1.
Players, we got 1 bonus here. 1 bonus.
And the official confirms it. Gotta love those microphones.
Wow. Well, I think this is what you want when you won a Twin City championship game, right?
And the last tune-up before playoffs begin. A well-contested game, and this makes a strong case for both teams. And Smith,
iron kind.
she'll be thanking the rim for that. But this is a strong game for both teams to help themselves get ready for state, but I think it also sends a message to their respective classes. We're ready.
So it's going to be important. It's going to be important right now for Washburn to try to get it to Coley.
27.3 seconds left.
You can't be too selective, though. It's a good timeout here.
And we spoke of Marta Wallen earlier, a St. Paul Central graduate. There's another one in attendance. She was coaching in the junior varsity game. Ashley Ellis-Milan was a 2005 graduate, went to the University of Minnesota, did cross the 2,000-point mark herself, and her career flailed at the end with the Gophers, but she was honored with other alumni recently at their alumni weekend, and she was greeted warmly, which was a stark difference to 4 years ago when there was some animosity in her direction. So that was encouraging to see, and told me once that she always wanted to work with kids, and she does that at Woodbury as an elementary school teacher and taking up coaching, part of the long coaching tree of Willie Taylor.
Well, I mean, that right there, what you explained, you know, working with kids and coaching, she's living a dream. You know, a lot of people, you know, you don't get the, when nobody's making $1 million, you know, and stuff, but you get paid in other ways. And
there's a passion.
Yep, passion, and seeing these girls grow up from little girls to young women. What can you know, it doesn't get any better than that.
There's a passion that dollars can't speak for. Raina Shero, strong defense on Coley, and Wallen called the timeout. So Central gets the ball, although I do wonder, did Wallen cost her team a fast break chance?
I'm going to tell you exactly what happened here. The timeout was called. Central was in the 2-3 zone there. Washburn gets over, and I know they had a play against the 2-3 zone. Central did a good job of switching to man, and they kind of got him out of sorts there and forced that bad pass where it was forced in. You know, so I give that's good coaching down there. You know, and that's a game of adjustments right now.
They use the zone as a way of pulling off a ruse. They used the zone as a ruse, switched to man, and caught Washburn on the trap.
Well, I do it all the time. I mean, especially late in the game. They're down there devising a play against this. And unless they're giving them a secondary play, which sometimes you do as a coach, if they go to man, we'll get into this, you know. So, you know, I don't know if that was said over there or not, but it just looked like they were out of whack right there.
That being said, there's still 24 seconds left.
Still don't have to foul right away here. I think you can still get a quick trap and, you know, and try to get a steal.
There's a 10-second backcourt rule, and even if they do foul, Central can't make this a two-possession game. So Washburn, well, they are going to foul. That's Renikoff's fourth. But you know what? They know Central doesn't have the strongest of free throw shooters. I mean, they've been doing pretty well today, 12 of 15, but play those percentages out. Because even if they make both, you can still tie it with a three. That's not to say I'm right, but I'm sure. Why not? Extend the game. And put the pressure on in an area they're not so strong in. We'll see what happens. Kizzard is now the fourth Central player to break double digits today.
Well, as I'm looking here, she's shooting 55% from the line. That was a big bucket for her. Well, that's the percentage.
It's a 2-point game. Washburn has one timeout left. Will they use it here, or will they go for the win?
He has to call it. He has to call it. He has to call it.
Kizzard with the steal, and that does it.
He has to call it.
Up with a big defensive play. Ball game. Central wins. 71-67. Kizzard the hero.
You know, I hate, like you said before, we're a coaching fraternity. But you're not taking your timeouts home with you. That was tough.
Speechless.
That was tough to watch. You know.
Exciting for Central, but tough for Washburn.
Well, the ball has to get into Chase Coley's hands in that situation. You call a timeout and you make sure it does.
Well, we'll try to get a word with some of the players. This is a fun game overall, and thank you, Quentin, for being a part of this. St. Paul Central wins 71-67 and wins the 2014 Twin Cities Championship.
Well, thanks a lot, man. I'm glad you got a hold of me. This
yeah,
well,
hang around. We'll see if we can get a word from the players in a moment.
Okay. Yep.
Mike Peden here with several players of the game standing right in front of us. Next to me is Chelsea Kizart, Lyric Williams, and Chase Coley, and I guess we'll go down the line here. Chelsea, you were the hero of the game, coming up with that steal into the final 10 seconds, getting the finish, and making some big plays late. Talk about your defense today.
Well, I think I played very good defense. I was on my timing about when I should get the ball and when I shouldn't. So it was just all about my timing on it.
And this is a different game than last year. You ran away against Washburn a year ago. This time you had to sweat for the victory. How does that help you get ready for playoffs?
It was a very intense game. It helped me get my head into where it needs to be when we go to playoffs and start. And it was a good help for me to build my intensity for the game of next week.
And balance and small ball have been your saviors this season. You didn't have Chapman. You didn't have Betsy McDonald to run the points. So Central's been having to run this season by committee, and here they are with another 20-win season.
Well, yeah. We had good guards coming after Betsy and a really good post player coming after Sade. So we had a very good people stepping up in the games.
And how exciting was it to get that steal and the game-clinching basket?
It was kind of exciting because I just can't explain. It was just very exciting.
So you have no words for this moment?
No, I do not.
Maybe when you watch it on television or online, you'll have some, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Well, hang on for a moment. Lyric Williams, you led the team in scoring with 15 points. You perhaps have the highest arcing shot I've seen out of any player, but they work for you, and that's what matters. So what would you say about your offense today?
I started off really slow, but at the end of the first half, I got going with that three.
And this is a game, a lot of twists and turns, a lot of narratives unfolding. How do you negotiate? How do you manage a game like this where both teams are riding waves and different sets of emotion?
I just try to keep my head in the game. That's all.
And what would you make of the first season with Marta Wallen, a new head coach, similar system to Willie Taylor, but having to get a new feel for things? And here we are, Central winning the St. Paul City Conference and playing well in this game as they usually do.
I like playing with Marta. We adjusted to how she coaches. It's not that different from Coach Taylor, but yeah, I like it a lot.
And you got a couple of big steals. We talked about Chelsea's play. You had another big steal in the last 20 seconds. So how did you strategize against Washburn's formation in that final 30 seconds?
I just tried to play my regular defense and get up on them.
And what does this do in your preparation for section? You've got Woodbury up next, and Roseville and White Bear Lake are the favorites in that section.
We'll just play hard and be intense with it, how Central plays, that's all.
And Chase Coley, be careful. You've got Kanisha Bell taping this, so if you say something silly, she's going to put it on YouTube. You had 32 points, came up short here, but unlike last year, you held on against St. Paul Central and made this one hell of a game.
Yeah, we just we knew coming in there much faster than us, but we really tried to, we sat in our 3-2 zone. We moved quickly on that, and we tried to rebound. Rebounding was a big thing we needed to do tonight.
Now, 10 seconds left. They get the steal. You had some time left. You opt not to call timeout. What was the planning in that situation? Or were you just trying to get back up? It's just we were wondering about it, but it's not something you really planned for either.
Yeah, we just kind of went with it. Those turnovers at the end of the game, those are the things we need to work on, and we're going to go back into practice and we're going to talk about what we need to do, how to secure the ball better so we don't get in situations like that where at the end of the game we need to really secure the ball.
Now, you've struggled against some of the 4A teams. Most of your losses in the last 2 years have come against the top class, but we've seen what that does for you in the postseason. So you played Central, you play Minnetonka, a lot of tough 4A teams. How do you think that's going to show when you start section play against Blake?
Well, I love the Minneapolis City Conference, but we don't have as much competition as we do when we play these big 4A schools, and this really helps us get better and see what we need to work on to play our bigger competition going into the state tournament and sections, and it's just a lot of fun playing against you guys.
And you had a crazy stretch of games. You had 6 games in 8 days where you got 6 triple-doubles. This was your 3rd game in 3 days. How do you manage that situation as far as your energy, and how do you think that helps you get ready for state where you're going to be playing a back-to-back?
Well, I think we're pretty used to it because me and a lot of the girls on the team, we go to the Y. We go every single day when we don't have practice. Sometimes we go in the mornings. We're always in the gym, so we're pretty used to it. Took a couple ice baths, and we're fine.
Now, you crossed the 2,000-point milestone, one of many accolades you've accomplished this season. Single game block record, single season blocks record, career blocks. I could go on with all of the statistics. You don't worry about that, but what do you think that mark leaves as you get ready to end your high school career, this being your final run?
Well, I really hope it inspires and pushes my teammates to try to beat my records, and of course I want them all to get better than me. And you know what? Right now I'm okay that I'm better than them, but just pushing each other and making sure they do better, so in the future I can come back and watch them do really good too.
And what do you attribute, because you're in position to break your single season blocks record for the third straight time. You broke the single game blocks record now twice. How do you keep up such high levels of consistency in areas that many players don't necessarily emphasize?
I don't know, just after every game I really kind of in my head just kind of go over what happened, and I know before I came here I watched the Fab Five, and before on mornings where we have weekend games, I know I watch a lot of basketball, and I kind of just analyze what other people do, and it really helps me. And I watch other high school games and I watch what those players do, and I kind of just work really hard to do the best I can do out there.
I think on top of that, you also have the first quintuple double in this state, to my knowledge. Are you going to put up these kind of numbers at Iowa?
I hope so. I'll try.
And for all three of you, how fun was it to get a rematch and to have a game like this where you had to sweat it out through the final seconds?
It was very exciting for me. I like playing against Chase. She's a very good basketball player.
What about you, Lyric?
Yeah, I agree with Chelsea. It was fun. I like close games.
And Chase, you were on the losing end of this, but I imagine this was fun for you to get a game like this as opposed to last year?
It's so much fun to play high competition. Even if you lose, a tough loss is better than a blowout.
And anybody you want to say hi to watching this, since this is our final game of the broadcast season?
I guess I say hi to my mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
To all my friends.
And wherever your mom is watching, I'm sure she'll say hi to you as well, whatever plane of existence. But it's great to see the support from both sides. I saw a big crowd. They were chanting defense behind us. I thought we were going to shake and collapse in the bleachers and they'd have to dig us out. And I know you've had a lot of support through your teammates. They've talked about the family. This was a lot of fun. And well, I wouldn't mind if I saw both of you at state again, but you've got to get through that section first, so we'll see what happens. But thank you for giving us a very entertaining game to end our season.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, there you have it. Our last game of the broadcast season. One more thanks to Quentin Johnson for helping us right at home. And thank you to all the viewers who have tuned in on Prep 45 on SPNN for making this one of the best seasons we've had broadcasting high school basketball. You'll see us at state with some post-game coverage, but as far as our games go, we're done until the spring. So until then, I'm Mike Peden. We'll see you next time.